Today we brave the elements and drive the Audi Q5 TFSI 50e. We'll explain what all those letters mean and why the E is the most important, even more important than Quattro. We check out the next level of cruise control and show how this actually costs less than the slower Q5 45. You might be thinking right now that this car looks familiar, and it should. The Q5 is one of Audi's most popular cars in New Zealand. It's not a new model, it's not even a facelift. It's actually better than that. This is the Q550 TFSI, and from that scrabble of letters, it's the E that's worth the most, that means the most. It's not only what makes this a new car, it's the template for Audi's hybrid future. While Audi's pure EVs get to wear the e-tron badge, this Q5 is a plug-in hybrid, a lot more subtle. It's just an E. That means it combines a 195 kilowatt 2-litre 4 with a 105 kilowatt electric motor. The result of that is a combined 220 kilowatts, 450 newton meters. And if you want to do the sums, 220 kilowatts is pretty close to 300 horsepower. Now those two motors are joined by a clutch, which is part of the 7-speed gearbox, which then feeds the Quattro drivetrain. The result of that is a car that's genuinely quick, and not just for a hybrid, 6.1 seconds to 100. And at the same time, it delivers an official fuel economy of, wait for this, 1.6 litres per 100 kilometres. That's just 38 grams of CO2 per kilometre. Some more numbers, there's a 14.1 kilowatt hour battery that provides up to 62 kilometres of pure electric drive. Now it charges at 7 kilowatts, so it's not a super fast charger. But to put that in quite simple terms, if you plug it in at home at night on your normal power supply, 6 hours overnight will fill up the battery. On that note, the price for this Q5 50e is $114,990 at Giltrap Audi. Now to put that into perspective, I've done the sums. It's exactly $23 more than the Q45, which is less powerful and burns 4 times as much fuel. But there's more to it than that. The Q5e comes standard with air suspension, which is normally around $4,000 as an extra. As a result, this isn't just faster, it handles better as well. In fact, the only way you can get a more spirited drive is the SQ5, which not only costs a lot more, it doesn't offer up to 62 kilometres of guilt-free motoring. In fact, the only thing it loses on other Q5s is some luggage space, with the battery taking away 95 litres of the boot. That said, you still get 450 with the seats up and 1,405 litres when they're folded flat. The rest is top-level Q5. This is an S-line, so you get quilted Napa leather seats. There's also a virtual cockpit and the Audi Connect screen. By the way, that Audi Connect is the visible part of this car's mega brain. Now I mentioned the Quattro system, but in the Q5e it can also go duo, sending all the power to the front wheels, and it does that as often as possible to improve efficiency. But it doesn't wait for things to get loose before re-engaging with sensors and road data constantly feeding into that brain. And that same brain also knows when it's best to coast or recuperate energy. Could look at this heavy rain and start to debate what climate change is doing to us in Auckland, but when it gets like this, you start thinking about the hybrid nature and you start reveling in the fact that you've got Quattro drive. Now I keep rabbiting on about the brains of this car, and one thing it does that's really brilliant is the ability to read the road and coast where it can, so if you lift off and it doesn't need to slow down, the car disengages all drive and uses every bit of that kinetic energy it can. But if there's a car in front or you're creeping over the speed limit, it regenerates energy to slow you down. But the coolest bit of clever in the Q5e is the way it uses the navigation system to deliver the best possible use of the zero-emission electric drive. I'll try and explain it. When you put in a destination, it assesses every metre of the journey, every traffic light, the gradient, even congestion, to use that electric power in the best possible way. Sort of opposite to the way your old cruise control would speed up just as you're cresting a hill. And here's the really cool thing, you don't need to have a degree in computer sciences to make that predictive energy system work. Whether you've got the cruise control activated or not, it's doing its job. It will even send a haptic signal to your right foot to let you know there's no point in giving it the gas because it literally sees and knows what is around every corner. Of course, if you think you can do better, you can override the system and try your luck. As for me, I'm not game to take on four-sprung turret technique. But you know, the thing that may be the best thing about the Q5e is that all that eco-genius takes nothing away from what makes the Q5 such a fantastic car.